Hey minions, welcome to Crank It Up. I'm Jim Price, and I had this cool idea to kick off 2022, but I'm postponing it because I need to talk about terraforming again. This video is inspired by a Reddit post asking about the best card in Smash Up, and it quickly became a debate over terraforming. Every time this question gets asked, terraforming seems to get a lot of hate, which is insane. I want to emphasize, these videos are just my opinion, and I respect many of the people who disagree with me on this, but it's a new year, and it's my video, so I'm just going to come out and say that if terraforming is not your top action, you're wrong. Plain and simple. I always hesitate to name a top card overall because there is so much thought that goes into that, but gun to my head, in 2022, terraforming is still the best card. And if you disagree, that's okay, you're wrong, and this video is going to prove why. There are many angles to approach this question, and I will try to comprehensively cover all of them, but I won't necessarily be making my points in strength order, just what makes narrative sense. And I want to start out by saying that, to be the best card, if you view the isolation angle, it's clearly terraforming. Let's play Fantasy Smash Up and start a draft. What's your number one pick? It's gotta be the best overall card, right? Let's say you think it's the Invader, and you play it, and you get a VP. That's great. But terraforming can do more than that, which we will see. Not only that, but what do you draft after the Invader? If you draft the Invader, to maximize its ceiling, you need to draft a bunch of cards to really maximize the Invader. And here's the problem. They don't exist in high quantities. There's not a lot of return cards. There's not a lot of search cards. You know what can do both of those? Bases, which terraforming controls. And what do you do if the return cards or search cards are hate drafted? The instant VP is nice, but from a draft perspective, I believe that terraforming gets you a lot more than one VP with absolutely insane higher upside. And it's instant upside. The Invader needs time to be replayed many times, and if it dies, it dies. Terraforming as an action, with rare exceptions, is counterproof. It happens all at once, it can provide value in any deck, and I can prove that. Let's take every faction ever created and create two copies of them. One that has the Invader in its normal rank, and one that has terraforming in its normal rank. Which card is going to get better used? The fact is that aliens are the lucky beneficiary of terraforming because it doesn't particularly synergize with its own faction at all, and yet it's still insane. That shows you just how well terraforming fits in any deck, regardless of partner. If you were going to build a random deck that had terraforming, you could use it effectively because it doesn't require dependencies on any other cards. And this is largely because terraforming can do an insane amount of things, which is often forgotten. I'm about to admit my own hypocrisy because I think that terraforming has a blossom paradox, which is when a card's upside prevents it from being used because you save it for an upside that never comes. However, I must be immune to it because I always use terraforming. Always. And just to be clear, always. If you don't use it, I don't believe you. And here's why. Terraforming has the floor of being a summon. That's right. In its worst possible use case, it's still a really good card, playing an extra minion. And I've seen games won this way. Terraforming any base into any other base just to play an Invader for a VP, or to play the final minion. That doesn't make Invader great, it makes terraforming great, because it means that at its worst, it's still an above average card regardless of what's played after. But it gets even better. Suppose I were to tell you that card X says to play an extra minion, lowers a breakpoint by 3, and gives you a VP. How would you rate that card without knowing anything else? Because that's just one of the many things that terraforming can do, the underappreciated breakpoint swap. Looking at the core set alone, if you terraform a 23 breakpoint homeworld into a 20 breakpoint mushroom kingdom, you get the extra play from terraforming, you've increased the VP reward by 1, and you've decreased the breakpoint by 3. Let's continue this train of thought to see the biggest swap we can see. And as I do this, I want to stress that this isn't even the most optimal play. In the next expansion, you can drop a greenhouse by 4 to a 20. You can drop a 24 Antarctic base to a 20-point Mountains of Madness for 6 VP. In Pretty, you can drop a 26 breakpoint, unfavorable spread Fairy Circle, where terraforming can be a free play, to a 20-point 421, costing someone a point. I can go on, but there is almost always a 3 to 4 breakpoint reduction that lets you turn moderately contested bases into finished ones. What you are doing here is hijacking someone else's lead, finding the best fit in terms of efficiency, and quickly clearing a base for the right combination of points. Of course, you can go the opposite route too, terraforming for tar pits or other cheap 4-3-2 where throwing on a cheap recruit makes someone severely overpay and you instantly get free VP. This is really impactful and still not the best play. That's because we love the idea of terraforming for ninja bases where you aren't even on it to begin with. On a base where someone is running away with the lead, where you don't even have presence, you can turn a 5-0 potential gap into a 2-3 spread. And this is so very easy to do. Even if someone has a 12-point lead, 2-3s can do it, and you take out their entire investment and you get more VP. We've all done it and had it done to us, and this is not just about the point differential, which would be 6 VP in this case, but about the fact that it invalidates entire turns of setup. Everything you invested, all of your equity, gone in an instant. And that's not even the upside of terraforming, which has the potential for terraforming into ridiculously broken bases. Rhodes Plaza Mall and the factory can be so dominant that literally nothing else matters. I have won entire games by terraforming into those bases as my only source of VP, but I've also gotten 8 or 9 out of nowhere and then I coast for the rest of the game. Instead of upgrading your output for 1 VP, you are upgrading for a significant amount of VP. Consider this, on Rhodes Plaza Mall, independent of how many VP you get just by terraforming for it, that extra minion play is automatically another VP. On Factory, depending on who it is, it can be several VP. You can exploit the bonus of a previous base, then exploit the VP after you no longer need the previous ability. And I did this once with a card that thankfully didn't make it into the final version because it was a minion that let you play an action from the discard, which should never be allowed. I terraformed from the homeworld, played a ton of minions, and the extra terraform play let me play the minion who played terraforming from the discard pile to turn it into Rhodes Plaza Mall, and out of nowhere I had a ton of VP. But why just allow yourself to maximize VP? Why not completely tear it away from someone else? Imagine having someone else investing a ton in one of those bases, and Terraform changes it into a ninja base, or tar pits, or literally anything else. Even if you had no other option but a 4-2-1 base, which I find impossible, you might still have cost them 4 to 5 points because you still have the chance to catch up on it. I've even terraformed Rhodes Plaza Mall for a 1 point second place difference because I knew I could take it out and not have to worry about it against the Swarm combo, and no matter what I did, I was still going to get a second place difference. As you are starting to see, the playbook for terraforming is massive, independent of any partner. I haven't even named any partners yet, except the former you-know-what, and I've spoken at length at what this single card can do, being offensive or defensive in a variety of ways. But there are still some even more crazy plays that you can do with terraforming if you needed to do something unexpected. I have to give credit to a friend of mine because this is pretty brilliant, but he won a game by terraforming for Faceless City to grab his second invader and play it as the extra play to win the game. And this was a different game from the cheap summon to end the game previously. See an opportunity to solo the homeworld out of nowhere? Do it. Want to trap everyone's minions on a base that can't score? Turn it into Ice Castle. I have spoken at length about the base rule and why they shouldn't be combined completely, because you are giving terraforming literally over 150 options to find the best fit of VP, ability, and breakpoint. What other single card has impacted a rule that impacts every game in such a significant way as terraforming? I can't prove that's the reason why the rule was added, but come on, that has to be a factor. But terraforming, amazingly, can still do more. In addition to everything I mentioned before, terraforming still has abilities that can be used in isolation or in service of everything else I just mentioned. Terraforming is an unblockable base modifier killer. The base leaves play, so all base modifiers are gone because only the minions are specifically kept and their modifiers are tethered to them. So you can reset a base in even more ways, shredding an entire genre of factions in a way they cannot stop. And because it can shred actions, it can also shred titans. For titans that cannot enter play on their own, like a Rainbow Rock, this can set someone back several turns. When I was playing in the first March Smashness, this was the card I feared as Kaiju Innsmouth, because not only would it get rid of the cards that summon Gorgonzola, it got rid of Gorgonzola too, and all of those power counters. And the terraforming player has complete control to pick the exact base where removing all this power can still be a mathematical advantage to make an instant play. Does terraforming have diminishing returns? Only if you are biased towards a specific way of using it. I would argue that a terraform done correctly puts the game so far out of reach using any number of ways that using it again is a luxury you do not need. Because even its not quite optimal usage of playing an extra minion, reducing the breakpoint, and adding a VP is pretty phenomenal, can swing a base entirely, and this is easy to do. Someone thinks the game can't end because that base will only get you 14 points? Think again. But if you notice, I took the extreme example of just trying to go up by 1 VP. What about all those bases that are around 22 or 23 breakpoint or more that offer 3 VP and a favorable second place spread that are now terraformed into a cheaper 5-3-2 base? You have to factor in both the game acceleration, the VP spread, and the ability to completely derail someone else's series of plays. No one else can do this. Let me ask you a question. Name a card that, regardless of score, can instantly end the game in a way that seems absurd. Not the Invader, not Tenacious Z, not Will Wheaton. No other card has the game-ending upside as Terraforming, and no other card has the amazingly high instant floor as Terraforming. You may pick a card that, over the course of the game, can deliver higher amounts of value, but my pick will end the game before you even get there. I can sit here all day and think of fun things to do with terraforming, and this video would be hours. The instant someone plays a local on roads, terraform it into the vats. We almost had a base where minions could not be moved from there. Goodbye, first mates. One of my all-time favorite plays involving terraforming for Cave of Shinies, where I did a multi-minion last dance on the same turn for 10 VP and ended the game out of nowhere. I don't want to pick on Invader because it's great and a lot of people talk about it, but I have won games with aliens without ever playing one. How? Terraforming. No matter how much you bounce invaders, breaking bases has a higher, faster output. In fact, getting invaders off the board through a terraform is one such way to slow invaders down. In 2022, in a standard game, you are usually looking at least 16, 24, or 32 bases, not to mention the extra 8 from the core set. There is always a terraforming play. Maybe it's because I have the base deck memorized, but I always find a play, and it's a game changer. It has the absolute ultimate ceiling. It has a great floor. It has the most diverse playbook with tons of ways to add or subtract VP and control the game tempo. Terraform for Jungle Oasis, it's an amazing play. It's a catch-up play. I can do an entire video on top 10 bases I love terraforming for. So yeah, if you happen to know of a card that, in a single turn, gives you any base ability you want, plays an extra minion, reduces or adds breakpoint, changes the VP spread, kills titans and base modifiers, and basically wipes the entire board, I'd love to hear it, because that's terraforming. And in 2022, it's still the best card in the game. Other cards rely on you needing to do something to achieve their maximum payoff, like Full Sail, or Super Future Space Armor Power, or turn after turn of invader spamming. None of them let you simply do nothing and react to your opponents running away with the game and actively stop it. It hurts every player equally while you have complete control. Will Wheaton targets one player. Control Minion targets one player. I'd still take Felicia Day over both of them because of her board wiping potential, and Terraforming does exactly that and so much more. But I go back to my original point. This is a card that can slide into any deck and get the exact same payoff because it has no dependencies on anything else. An Invader needs to be replayed massively. Time Walk needs very particular cards to go infinite. If you are giving me a fantasy draft and I get to pick any one card, it's going to be Terraforming. The only other card that I would entertain for the best card is Will Wheaton because it can counter Terraforming, the true best card. But I have a hard time with that because it means that the best card will always be whatever counters the second best card, and it has no identity of its own. Terraforming has an extremely vast playbook, playable at any time with unprecedented upside. It should be nerfed independent of faction context because in 2022, as it was in 2012, it's the best card in the game. I've been doing this a long time, so I know players are always going to disagree and tell me that I'm wrong. So let me know in the comments what you think is the best card of the game. I know there are a number of people on Team Terraforming, and I want to hear from you just as much as people on Team Wrong. Don't let me take all the credit for this. In all seriousness, I do respect different opinions on this, and we're all on the same team. Part of what makes these types of games beautiful is that we can have our opinions and be able to justify them in a way that makes sense to us. So tell me your opinion on the best card. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Let's shut it down. Whoa, hold on. Stop the credits. What happens if you play Terraforming in Phase 3 and you remove the scoring base, selecting a base with a higher breakpoint? According to the rules, that base stops scoring immediately, so Terraforming can also stop a base from scoring and buy you another turn? Is there anything this card can't do? Come on, it's clearly the best card.